I have so many things to do today, and now they ask me to feed this baby. As if I don't have enough on my plate already. I'm not even a newborn nursery nurse. Exactly how I feel. Yep, I'm gonna feed ya, get on my way. I don't know why I have to do everyone else's job anyways. Easy does it, we got this. All right, kiddo. Come on, there you go. That's it. Yep. He's not breathing. He's not breathing. No. He's not breathing. He's not breathing. Okay. It's hard. Heart rate is less than 60. From what I remember from my CPR classes, start chest compressions. I need help in the nursery. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need help in the nursery.
Good morning. My name's Megan. I'm here to help. What's going on?
I was just feeding this baby, and I think he choked, and he stopped breathing, so I started chest compressions.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and take over. I'll go ahead and take team lead. Nancy, if you'll be on circulation, get a heart rate and suction the mouth. Let's go ahead and stop compressions and see what's going on.
I'll do circulation, I'll suction the baby, and check the heart rate.
All right, thank you. And Katie, if you can do airway and go ahead and set up that T-piece.
Yes, I'll be airway and set up the T-piece.
Thank you. And Tegan, if you can write.
Heart rate is 40. I'm placing the pulse ox on the right hand.
All right, Katie, let's go ahead and start PPV for that heart rate.
Okay, starting PPV. Breathe, 2, 3. 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 Breathe, 2.
I have a heart rate of 40 and sats are 71%.
Breathe, 2.
All right,
3.
we're getting some good chest rise, Katie, but let's go ahead and go through Mr. Sopa.
Breathe, 2. Breathe, 2, 3, breathe, 2. 2, 3, breathe, 2, 3, breathe, 2, 3, breathe, 2, 3, breathe,
Good
2,
job.
3, breathe, 2, 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 3.
We still sound really tight.
Breathe, 2.
I still have a heart rate of 39 and sats are 70%.
All right, let's go ahead and prepare for intubation. And Nancy, also, if you'll prepare an OG tube.
Yes.
Do you have a weight on this baby?
Let's see. They told me 3 kilos.
All right, and do you know any other history on this baby?
They just told me to come up and feed the baby.
That's fine.
don't
That's
have
fine.
anything.
Can you go grab us the
Okay.
doctor? Yeah, thank you.
Preparing for intubation.
Going up to 100%.
With a 3.5 ET tube for 3 kilos. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2. Ready?
Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3.
Ready to intubate?
Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3.
ET tube, please. ET tube in. CO2 detector.
Let's restart PPV.
Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2.
We have bilateral breath
Breathe, 2,
sounds,
3. Breathe, 2, 3.
but still
Breathe,
really
2,
tight.
3. Breathe, 2, 3.
I still have a heart rate of
Breathe,
39 and sats of 70%.
Let's
All right,
secure
Nancy,
airway.
let's go ahead and start chest compressions.
Let's secure the ET tube first.
Okay,
Take that.
got it. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe,
Securing the
2, 3.
ETT at
Breathe, 2,
8
3.
centimeters at
Breathe,
the lip.
2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3.
To
Breathe,
secure.
2, 3. Starting
Breathe,
compressions
2,
now.
3. Breathe,
1 and 2 and 3.
Breathe.
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 All right.
One
It
I
looks
have
like
a
two,
heart rate
and three.
greater than 100 and sats are
Breathe.
95%.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and
Breathe,
stop chest
2.
compressions and see where we're at.
Breathe. 2.
Nancy, how are we
3.
sounding?
Breathe. 2, 3. Breathe. 2, 3.
We're moving.
Breathe. 2, 3. Breathe. 2, 3. Breathe. 2, 3. Breathe. 2, 3.
We sound nice
Breathe,
and clear.
All right. Let's prepare to go to the
Breathe, 2,
NICU.
3. Breathe. 2, 3.
All right, that's a
breathe,
wrap.
2.
Let's go to the debriefing room. We have moved the team over to a separate room like we normally do. We don't want to do it on the actual debriefing, the actual simulation room. We don't want to do the debriefing because we don't want to subtract any of the realism of the simulation. Their learning objectives today was to recognize an infant with secondary apnea in a high fidelity scenario. Second objective was to recognize that prior to starting chest compressions, effective PPV has to be given for at least 30 seconds. Their psychomotor skills, which they showed during the simulation, was demonstrate the initial resuscitation steps to an infant with secondary apnea, demonstrate the correct technique for providing positive pressure ventilation. Psychomotor or behavioral skills was to consistently use closed-loop communication during their simulation, which most of the time was used, so we'll discuss that during the debriefing, the parts that were not actually followed correctly. And then affective rank as valuable, the importance of promptly recognizing an infant with secondary apnea. Today we're going to be using the PEARLS framework to actually direct this debriefing. So it stands for Promoting Excellence and Reflective Learning in Simulation, and it's divided in 4 different phases. The reactions phase, it starts with an open-ended question that allows learners to vent and express their thoughts and feelings. The second phase is the description phase. During this phase, we summarize key events, making sure that learners and educators are on the same page. The third phase is the analysis, and we're going to use different techniques like learner self-assessment. In that one, we'll use the plus-delta technique. In the plus, we're actually going to mention things that went well, and in the delta, we're going to discuss things that they could have improved. The second one is going to be provide information, so it's just directive feedback, things that if you're running out of time and you think you haven't covered things during your debriefing, you'll go ahead and provide that information to them. But that is mostly teacher learning instead of actual student learning, so it's not brought up by them. And then we have focused facilitation, and we're going to use an example of advocacy inquiry question. Lastly, we're going to go to the applications or summary phase, and then it's going to be either learner-guided or educator-guided. So today it's going to be learner-guided. So let's go to the reactions phase. Okay, so how do you feel today?
Great. I think that actually went really, really well.
It did go great. I've been in similar situations before. I just can't believe she was doing chest compressions when we got there.
I was just so nervous. I feel like I could have communicated better with the team.
It felt so real. I forgot I was in a simulation.
So that's an example of the reactions phase. So during this phase, we can see that they have the opportunity to vent, and they can probably bring some objectives that you can discuss also during the simulation if they're not the same objectives that you had decided beforehand. So let's move on to the description phase. Can someone please summarize the case?
Sure. So we had a newborn infant that was being fed up in the newborn nursery. There was a nurse not very familiar with the baby feeding him, and at some point he stopped breathing, and she called our team. When we arrived, he was cyanotic, and she was already giving chest compressions, so we went ahead and took over. We assigned roles, and we started the NRP protocol. We stimulated and suctioned the baby. He wasn't responding, so we started PPV. We believe the baby was in secondary apnea from that choking episode. He didn't respond right away to PPV, so we did have to escalate to intubation and chest compressions, but he did eventually respond and recover.
That's a great summary, Megan. So now we're going to move to the analysis phase, and we'll use a transition. So we'll say, that's great. Now let's talk more about the case. There's some aspects that went well, and some aspects that look a little bit more challenging. Let's go ahead and discuss those. So we'll use a focus facilitation question. So Megan, you mentioned that the baby was in secondary apnea. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So we see a lot of primary apnea that responds really well to just stimulation and the baby recovers. However, in secondary apnea, the baby doesn't recover, and this baby did not recover until we started that PPV and had to escalate further. So we believe it was secondary apnea.
So with this question, I have covered one of the objectives, which was one of the cognitive, which was recognize an infant with secondary apnea, and that was one of my primary objectives during this simulation, so I wanted to ensure that everybody was clear. Megan, that was a great explanation of secondary apnea. Is everyone clear on that term?
Yes.
So I have ensured that everybody understands what secondary apnea is, and now we'll move on to the next question. So we'll use in this next question a plus delta technique. So we'll use the plus side. So what aspects do you think went well?
I think we worked well as a team together. Megan was our team leader. She quickly assigned roles. Everyone remained really calm during the situation because we did know our roles, and we quickly recognized that the baby was in secondary apnea and began PPV.
All right, so with that question, I have covered one of the other objectives, which is the affective, which is rank as valuable, the importance of promptly recognizing an infant with secondary apnea. So now we'll move to a delta question. So Tegan, you mentioned earlier that you could have communicated better. What would you have done different?
I feel like I should have used closed loop communication.
Can somebody talk a little bit more about that?
So closed loop communication is when I say something and the person that I'm saying it to repeats it back to me. Therefore, we're closing the loop. I was just so nervous that I had froze, but I'll definitely keep that in mind for the future next time.
So with this question, I followed it with the focus facilitation question, and we have covered one of our other objectives, which is psychomotor or behavioral, which is consistently use closed loop communication. Most of the time during our simulation, our members use closed loop communication, but Tegan was a little bit shy. She stayed on the back, and she didn't use closed loop communication consistently. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page, and we brought up that during our debriefing to ensure that she was clear about using closed loop communication in the future. So now we'll follow with an advocacy inquiry question. So Katie mentioned that she couldn't believe that the newborn nursery nurse was giving chest compressions when she got there. Megan, I noticed that you stopped chest compressions when you got there and the heart rate was less than 60. What was going through your mind?
So yes, we do generally start chest compressions when the heart rate is less than 60. However, we only start those compressions after we've given effective PPV.
And Megan's correct. So the newborn nursery nurse did not give effective PPV prior to starting compressions. Megan followed the NRP algorithm.
So with this last question, we've actually covered another objective, which was recognize that prior to starting chest compressions, you have to provide effective PPV for at least 30 seconds. That's according to NRP, which is different from PALS or from ACLS. So now we're going to jump up to the last phase, which is going to be the application or summary. And I'm going to go with this question. So I would like to close this simulation by asking each of you to mention a take-home message after going through this simulation today.
I feel like communication is very important in ensuring the safety of the situation and making sure that everybody has closed the loop and everybody's on the same page.
Effective positive pressure ventilation should be given for at least 30 seconds prior to compressions.
And a baby in secondary apnea will not respond to tactile stimulation.
And that as soon as you recognize secondary apnea, you should start that PPV as soon as possible.
So during this last phase, I make sure that everybody's clear on the main topics or main objectives of the simulation. If there's any new topics that arise or objectives that haven't been covered, I take the opportunity to go ahead and discuss those. If we're running out of time, then we'll just go ahead and end up the simulation at that time. But you have the opportunity to identify further learning areas that were not covered, or at least have learner-guided learning. In that way, they can bring up new things that we actually were not expecting to happen during the simulation if needed. All right, well, thank you very much. Thanks for attending the simulation. See you next time.
See ya. Thank you.
We have Nathan. He's one of our simulation operations specialists. I have Becky. She's a simulator actor. Works with us at the hospital. And then we have one of our real teams. So we have Megan Chambliss, she's one of the neonatal nurses. We have Nancy Chang, another neonatal nurse. We have Katie Martino, she's one of the respiratory therapists. And Tegan Gibbons, she's one of the neonatal nurses also. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here today.